Alright guys, and welcome back to the Saints View, the channel for something content for a brand new video. Now, unfortunately, no matchday content will be coming up for the next month, but that's okay because we can still make some videos whilst in self-isolation. If anything, more videos. If I can come up with ideas, if you guys give us ideas, then we will make some more videos. But I thought today, assuming that potentially the season could be over, we should have a look back at our last 20 signings. Now, there have been some very interesting players to come into this club over the last few years. Some deals have been excellent, some, not as much. And so I thought it'd be a good idea just to break them down and give them a grade from A to like F, U really ungradable when they haven't really played. So yeah, that's pretty much the idea with this one. But before we do get into it, make sure you are subscribed. We're going to try and get some more content out over the next couple of weeks with no matches. It is difficult at the moment, with everything going on, but we're at home, so we should be able to make videos if we can come up with the ideas. So stay tuned for more content, because that is the plan. And also make sure you're following us on our socials. The Instagram has been booming recently, so make sure you're following us on that. And make sure you have voted for us as Best New Content Creator in the Football Content Awards. We've been posting about it all over our socials over the last few weeks. But if you haven't yet done it, you just check out our Instagram or Twitter and you can work out how to do it. Right, let's get into the video. Now it's our last 20 signings because that takes us all the way back to summer 2016, which I think is a decent time frame. Starting off with Nathan Redmond. Now we signed him in 2016. He was the first Claude Puel signing. Actually, Claude Puel hadn't come in at that point, so it was more the club signing. He'd just been relegated with Norwich the previous season, came to us for about £10 million, and he's actually proving to be a very, very good signing. For £10 million, and he's got about 20 goals over the last 3-4 seasons, I don't actually think he's been a bad buy at all. And I've actually given the deal an A. I think he's a very influential player for us. It was exceptional last season, and he's proved to be a very important player for us as well this season. Next up is Pierre Højbjerg, another player who is still here. We signed him from Bayern Munich for £12.5 million, and so technically he was the first Claude Puel signing. At the time signing, I think it was 2021, midfielder from Bayern, a lot of money, so there was quite a lot of hype around him. No one had actually heard of him, or very few people had heard of him, but I think it's fair to say he's been a very good buy as well. I'm giving it an A. I think it's been some great business. He's now our captain. Yes, he hasn't reached the heights that he reached last season this year, but he's still one of the best players at the club and one of the first names on the team sheet. And 12.5 million nowadays, is it that much money for Saints? I guess it is, but yeah, I think it deserves an A. I think really good business. And yet another player who's still at the club, Alex McCarthy. He also joined in that summer for £3.5 million, has now worked his way up as our first choice goalkeeper once again. Came in from Crystal Palace. I think he'd been there just for a year, didn't work out, so he came in as our backup. Didn't play too much that season, I think just a couple cup games here and there as backup to Fraser Forster. Season after that, it was the same sort of thing until Forster's form just dropped massively, and he came in for the last, I want to say 3 months of that season, made some incredible saves to keep us up in the Premier League. And then following next season, Mark Hughes is the manager. He starts off as first choice. Ralph Hasenhüttl then replaces Hughes around Christmas time. He's still the first choice, and then something changed. I think the fact that we got Angus Gunn, and we'll talk about him later on in the video. I don't know what it was, but Angus Gunn just suddenly became the first choice. I mean, he played well, and we'll talk about Angus Gunn, like I said, later on in the video. But this season, Gunn started first choice. Didn't really hit the heights that he was probably expected to hit. McCarthy's come back in and he's done relatively well. I don't think there's too much expectation on McCarthy. I mean, he can make some excellent saves. His distribution's dodgy, but his last game against Newcastle, one of his best, if not his best, in a Saints shirt. And for £3.5 million, I think that's actually a very good fee. I'm going to give that one another A. Now there are some bad ones coming, so do wait. I'm not just giving them all A's. After McCarthy came Jeremy Pied. Now you may not remember him, but he stayed for 2 seasons as our backup right back. I don't even think he reached 10 appearances for Saints, but he joined on free transfer from Nice, very much a Claude Puel signing. I remember him being a decent little player. I mean, good enough going forward, defensively a bit suspect. I mean, Cedric was the first choice by a mile at that point. We needed a backup, and yeah, he came in as a free, left as a free. I'm gonna give him a D. I mean, he didn't really play that much, didn't make an impact, but we didn't lose any money with him. Then finally for that window was Sofiane Boufal, who is still here at the club. £16 million at the time was our record transfer. Now, if I look at Sofiane Boufal's Saints career, I can't help but feel disappointed. When he came in, we all felt really encouraged about what he could do. We were excited. We knew that, you know, he's got loads of talent and he was still very young. You know, he could become a really good player for Saints. And of course, Puel knew him from Ligue 1. Buffal came in from Lille, so they hadn't worked together, but Puel was aware of his talents. And I remember being so excited when we were linked with him, you know, 5-star skills on FIFA and all that. But like I said, disappointing. I think his end product hasn't been good enough. He goes missing in games. Inconsistency is his worst enemy. And I do think he'll be leaving this summer. I'm quite surprised to see him still here, to be honest. I think after his loan deal last season back over in Spain, I thought he would have been sold, but he's been brought into the side by Ralph. You know, decent enough player on his day, but yeah, I just don't think he's suited for the Premier League. And like I said, I think he'll be sold. Overall though, he stayed, has scored some absolute worldies, so I've given him a C. I think the business at the time was necessary, but it just didn't really work off. You know, he's been a good player to have in the squad. Then moving on to January 2017, starting off with the signing of goalkeeper Moué Hassan. I think that's how you pronounced it, from Nice on loan. Didn't even make an appearance. Who even remembers him? You. Ungradable. But the other signing we made that window was very memorable. Manolo Gabbiadini came in from Napoli for £14 million. And I still miss him. I think he was an absolute star. Scored some incredible goals in terms of what they sort of meant across his time for Saints. I mean, when he joined, I think he scored something ridiculous, like 6 in his first 4 games. It was something like that. Got that brace, a hat-trick, if you want to be salty about it, in the cup final. I still call it a hat-trick because it was a hat-trick. The goal against Swansea as well to keep us up. He scores some great goals, but unfortunately it just didn't really work out. I think he came at a time when we were chopping and changing managers quite frequently. Obviously, Puel was there when he joined, and then Puel got sacked. Pellegrino didn't really fit the Pellegrino system. And then we got Mark Hughes in. Mark Hughes didn't really fit either. And then as soon as Ralph came in, I think he was done at the club. I think they decided that he was going to be sold, and he's gone back to Serie A. But given the scale of some of the goals he's scored and their importance, I've given him a B. I think he was a good signing and could still play for us now if he was here. And moving on to the summer of 2017, Jan Bednarek came in for £5 million from Lech Poznan. No one had heard of him. He was this 21-year-old wonder kid from Poland. And you thought, well, £5 million, he can't really be bad. You know, there's no expectation. And to be fair, the fact that he's now pushed himself up into the first team as probably the first choice, if not second choice centre-back at the club, you know, I think he's done pretty well. And given the fact that, you know, £5 million is basically nothing nowadays, I've given that deal an A. I think it was good business from the club. The next one, Wesley Hoyt, £15 million from Lazio that summer. Well, I don't really need to say much about this. Hoyt did not live up to the expectations that were set for him and is not Premier League quality. Now, 2 loan spells away from the club have proven that as well. I do feel bad for him though. You know, he should have been sold last summer, but it just hasn't happened. I've given the business an E. I mean, we overpaid for him massively for what he's given the club. Yeah, no, jog on. And then last up for that particular window was Mario Lemina. At the time, record transfer, £18 million from Juventus. Now, Lemina's very hot and cold. You know, I liked him as a player, but the way he handled things last summer just wasn't professional at all. And I just don't think we can expect to see him play in a Saints shirt ever again. You know, I do believe that he was told by the club that when he signed, he'd be moved on in 2 years' time to a bigger club. Obviously, the performances didn't really match the expectation, I think, the price tag as well, because I could probably count the amount of good games he had for Saints, like really good games, probably on one hand, maybe 2. Yeah, underwhelming player, given sort of the expectations surrounding him. I've given the deal a D. Now moving on to January 2018, Pellegrino was 2 months away from being sacked, but thought he was going to stay at Southampton for a long time, even though the club was in the relegation zone. Brought in his star striker from Argentina. Actually, no, we signed him from Monaco, didn't we? Well, he'd managed hit Carrillo in Argentina, so somewhere in Argentina. Basically, £90 million, absolutely wasted, thrown down the Swanee. F. I do feel bad for Carrillo. I don't think he was given any sort of opportunity, and it was unlucky that Pellegrino got sacked. But has to be sold in the summer. Simple as, get him off the wage books. Yeah, F. Now moving on to summer 2018, Pellegrino is gone. Mark Hughes has kept the Saints up and has just been given a 3-year contract. No, you cannot make it up. But Stuart Armstrong was the first signing of that summer, and £7 million from Celtic has actually proven to be an absolute bargain. I've said it before, I'll say it again, I adore Stuart Armstrong. I think he's an immense player, very much underrated, and on his day he's just sublime. So for £7 million, excellent deal. I've given it an A. Next up was Mohamed Elyounoussi, £16 million from Basel. Now, I was excited by this signing. I thought he could do well. You know, look at his stats, the fact that he was young as well. It just didn't work out for him. Another one of those, the Premier League, the sort of pace of it, it just didn't suit the league. So, and also I think he was victim to the chop and changing of managers as well. Didn't get a goal in his first, 10, 15 games under Mark Hughes. Then Hughes gets sacked. Hasenhüttl comes in, he falls out of favour because he just hasn't done anything under Mark Hughes. Got sent on loan last summer to Celtic. Actually, he's done all right there and potentially could have a place in the Southampton side next year. That's not me saying it, it's just a possibility. But personally, I think for £60 million and no goals, no assists, it's got to be an F. Also signed in that summer, who's still here, was Angus Gunn for about £13.5 million, £14 million from Manchester City. Now, the season before he'd spent a year on loan at Norwich, who were in the Championship. I mean, mid-table finish for them that year. But Norwich fans really, really liked him. Of course, his links to the club from his dad, but went back to Man City and then made the step up to the Premier League as a permanent Southampton player. Now, I think Gunn is actually a good keeper, and he's been unfairly made a scapegoat for what he's done this season. I think the fact that we haven't defended well, or especially at the beginning of the season when he was in the side, we weren't defending well at all, and he was victim to, you know, a lot of shots on target facing him. But some of them he really should have done better with, and that's why he obviously got dropped in the end. And I'd obviously keep McCarthy in there, but yeah, some of the things said about Gunn I don't agree with. You know, saying he's a bad keeper. I don't think he's a bad keeper. I think he still lacks a lot of experience. I think he's 24, so there is potential there. He's nowhere near his prime for a goalkeeper. So if it was me, I'd be keeping him in there, potentially giving him an opportunity in pre-season, if we're even going to have a pre-season, and then see where we go from there. But definitely don't get rid of him. And would we look at a new goalkeeper? I don't know, but you know, underwhelming for the £13.5 million so far. But I think he could be a good goalkeeper for us. So I've given the deal a C. Oh dear, another one. Right, Yannick Vestergaard, £80 million from Borussia Mönchengladbach. You know what? Not as bad as Hoyt. Nowhere near as bad as Hoyt. I know he's a massive scapegoat, but he's nowhere near as Hoyt in my opinion. But he is also Bambi on ice, like Hoyt. I don't know where we find these players from, honestly. But yeah, it hasn't lived up to the hype at all. £80 million is massively inflated for what he's given us over the last year and a half. Has put in some okay performances this season. I think Crystal Palace away, no one expected him to come in. He actually did very well, off the top of my head anyway. Scored a goal against Man United this season. I'll give him a D, but he has to be sold this summer. Now next up is the only A star of the group. Now, I didn't want to do the pluses and the minuses because you don't get those on your GCSEs or your A levels or whatever, but the A star, it was left for one special player, and that man is Danny Ings. Now, he signed on deadline day in the 2018 summer transfer window, initially on loan from Liverpool, but it was always going to be made permanent, and I think in the end we paid about £20 million for him, and that £20 million seems like an absolute bargain. His first season, a little bit shaky, unlucky with injuries. I think he scored about 6 last season, but this season, closing in on the 20, he's been absolutely sublime. Easily the best player we've had this season, up there with one of the best players we've had in the Premier League since we came back up. Yeah, we've been crying out for a striker like him, and the fact that he supports the club as well. You know, he's a fan. I really do hope he just stays forever, to be honest with you. A star for Danny Ings. Now we're fast forwarding a year because we didn't make any signings in the January window of 2019. So this is now last summer. First of all, we signed Moussa Djenepo. Now, I think that was about £14-15 million from Standard Liège. Very young player who, you know, was deemed as a pretty bright prospect in Europe. And to be honest, I think he's proven that. I think he's got plenty of potential, and on his day is absolutely sublime, and that's as 21. What could he be doing in 3-4 years time? Granted, I think injury, suspension, all those sort of niggly things have held him back slightly. He's only got 2 goals, I think maybe 2 assists as well, 1 or 2 assists. But you know, if he works on that end product, he will be a great player for us. I think next season we could really see an impressive Moussa Djenepo. Not saying he's not impressive now, but he sort of goes hot and cold a little bit. And like I said, end product's not quite there yet. But with these sorts of deals, you're not paying for the player now, you're paying for the player that could be in 3-4 seasons time. So, or not even that, maybe just the 1 or 2. So I think this was always sort of the adaptation season, see where he is at next year. But for £40 million, I know he hasn't been incredible. So I've given the deal a C, because I think there could be a lot more from Moussa Djenepo. Oh yeah, this one really disappointed me. Che Adams, £15 million. It just hasn't worked out, has it? Just hasn't. I mean, if you were subscribed in the summer and you were watching our transfer videos, you would have remembered how much I was, I won't say the, I won't use the expletive, but I was very, very happy that we were signing Che Adams. Let's put it that way. Because we obviously missed out on him in the January window, and then we came back in for him. Birmingham let us take him, and we all thought he was going to be the big striker that we wanted. No one really gave Ings a chance, and it just hasn't worked out. You know, I think hasn't, to an extent, he hasn't been given the opportunities. I don't think he's been played in the right system either. So yeah, we haven't seen a goal from him yet, but it is coming. I know it will. Maybe not this season, because we don't even know if this season will finish, but we shouldn't be selling him. I know Leeds were heavily linked with him. I think a deal was even sorted for him to go to Leeds permanently in January. We shouldn't have done that, and I'm glad he stayed. And he has proven that he's a good player. I think the fact that he's getting subbed on with 5 minutes to go at the end of games won't help. We saw it a couple of weeks ago when he came on against Aston Villa for like 25 minutes. He was sublime. I mean, he was really unlucky not to score. Set up Armstrong's goal. And I think he assisted Ings in the Leicester win as well a few weeks prior to that. He is a good player, and we just need to keep him here and, I don't know, work out how he could play with Ings, or maybe have him as a substitute. I don't know. But I think he's going to be a good player for us. However, having paid £15 million, no goals, not too many minutes, I have given the deal a D. Now the last deal of that summer was the Kevin Danso loan deal. Now that was a very, very odd one. We all worried about the fact we hadn't brought in his centre back, and then the club got an extension sheet to get Danso in from the club from Augsburg on loan. And I think there's a £10 million fee if we want him permanently. I can't imagine us paying that £10 million now, because he's hardly played. Ralph just doesn't fancy him at all. He's hardly been on the bench as well. Yeah, I don't think he's going to play for Saints ever again. I've given the deal an E. Then finally, Kyle Walker-Peters, the loan deal from this January. I mean, he's only played 1 game for us. Haven't really seen much of him at all. I've given it a U. We just can't judge him. Right then guys, that's the end of the video. I hope you have enjoyed it. Now, if you want more content like this, do let us know in the comment section below, and also make sure to leave it a like and subscribe if you haven't yet already. Let me know in the comments if you agree or disagree with any of my gradings, and make sure you also have your notification bell turned on so you don't miss any more of the content we've got over the self-isolation period. So stay safe, stay indoors, and we'll see you very soon.